Welcome to Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm Bobbi Pominville, and I'm your reporter on the arts. And today I'm delighted to have Connie Root here for an interview. So welcome to the show, Connie.
Thank you very much for asking me, Bobbi.
I'm looking forward to our talk. And she's a longtime band director, but other things too. I mean, you are so busy in your retirement. I do want to go there, and I want to talk to you about it. But first of all, I want the audience to know you are a graduate of UW-Eau Claire with a Bachelor of Music Education. You also have a master's degree in arts education from UW River Falls, and that's very commendable. I admire that so much. And you are a retired middle school band director and teacher for 41 years. So that is really an accomplishment. So more admiration for you. And the awards you have received, I wanted to mention these. You were the Outstanding Music Educator of the Year for UWRF, and you have received the Star Excellence Education Award for the Hudson Ed Foundation. And you know what? I have received that too. So we have that one in common. Mm-hmm. But you know, our directions in music went different ways. I went more into general and vocal music. But before I get to the first question, I'm going to throw something at you. How did you ever get involved in music and want to be a music teacher?
Well, my father was involved in music all the way through high school, and he was quite the athlete, but he was involved in music. And my mother has a beautiful voice. In fact, when they met in the Navy, she was actually recorded vocally in San Francisco. Jingles, ads on TV, beautiful voice. But never had the opportunity to play in band because she was sick. She missed a month of school in 5th grade. She was not given the opportunity to play. And that was just something that my brother and they wanted us both to play. So I started in 5th grade like everybody else started. But it's very interesting, and I was thinking about this after I saw the questions you asked, that I actually didn't go into music education. My whole first year of college, I was a music therapy major, which is more, like occupational therapy, work in nursing homes and hospitals. And somebody saw me working with students. Our band was on tour, and I was working with the kids at the school, and they go, "You're not an education major." I'm like, "No, why do you say that?" They go, "Well, you work really well with kids." And so then I started thinking about it, and I changed my major.
That's so wonderful, because I've seen you. I have worked in the same school as you for 5 years and known you so long, but I have actually had the delight of seeing you work with children. And you know what I've always thought? Middle school is a challenging area because there's so many changes in their lives. And I found out it wasn't for me. So, I went elementary. I was leaving the door open, for anything because I'm a K through 12.
Right.
And luckily I did get to go to a few different schools in this district. But I do admire you so much for that.
Well, it's a calling to teach middle school level, and I love it. I still love it. There's a special age, and you get. Yes. I think one of the things I enjoy most is seeing them from the very, very beginning. This is how you open the case. This is how you put together. This is how you produce a sound, and then I get to see the kids 6, 7, and 8, and that progression in those 3 years is just like amazing. And you've interviewed at least one of my former students here to see what they can do in 3 years if they put their mind to it is just pretty amazing.
I agree with you. And I've been at those concerts. And the 6th grade year, and the vocal thing that was going on when I was teaching there, and much easier than an instrumental, learning an instrument. But by 8th grade, Connie, I have been absolutely amazed at what you can get out of those kids. That's only 3 years.
Yep.
And they come from nothing. They can barely play.
Right.
But, oh boy, I'm really in awe of that. So now you are just having such a busy schedule. You're substitute teaching, you're playing trumpet, and I hope I say this right, in the UWRF University Band.
Right.
I did not know that one. And the St. Croix Valley, community band, and you are a freelance musician. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, no, and I don't know if you put on there that I teach. I do teach private trumpet students in retirement.
Yeah, I didn't
the
do
university band is an interesting group. It just started a few years ago, and it is comprised of students
Yes.
that may be on their secondary instrument or are not in the university band that meets during the day that Chris Chernow conducts. And this one is conducted by Dr. Gary Bird, who is an adjunct staff, and it is college students and community. And so there are many retired band directors that play in that group. Yeah, and it's really fun.
I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Because
Wednesday nights.
I've never been to those concerts, you know. And of course, I've heard the other group, and I've heard you play many, many times for vocal groups that I've sung in, choirs and different things, and at churches. Yeah, so that is really wonderful that you keep up on your trumpet.
I don't keep up on it as much as I used to.
Oh, I know what you're
and
saying.
then during COVID, there weren't opportunities. But
Yeah.
that is something that if I get asked to play for something, it's usually many months in advance. And it's kind of like an athlete. I just basically have to get my chops back in shape, and then I'm good. But to keep it up, I mean, you have to practice a minimum of an hour a day to really feel really, really good. Yeah, and yeah, sometimes it doesn't happen. I'm admitting this on television. But
no, I've heard it. I've heard it in different groups, and I've kind of been, a little blurb there, you know. But you know, it's the same with vocal. I have to exercise my voice.
Exactly.
And now I was in 4 choirs, pandemic hit, and I wasn't using my voice for months. And then I got to do that little thing at the FIPS, that little Zoom thing. And boy, I had to get myself ready, even though it was pop vocals, I had to warm up my voice.
Right.
And so I know what you're saying, and I've always thought trumpets are more difficult.
Well, it's one of the highest. The horn can play about as high as the trumpet, but because it's it's made of brass, it's very exposed. It plays in the upper register, so there's no hiding an error if you make one. And my trumpet teacher always said it's a very physical instrument. You know, you're putting all that air into that little tiny hole in the middle of the mouthpiece, and so you've got resistance and some back pressure, and so yeah, it takes a lot of muscle strength.
Yes.
And in order to sound good at it, you can really tell, just like you said, vocally, if someone hasn't practiced very much, because the first thing to go is the tone, the sound.
That's exactly right.
And the second thing is range, which I'm sure for you is exactly the same vocally.
That is true.
You lose your range, how high or low you can play.
You do.
So, and nobody wants to listen to somebody or singing or playing an instrument that doesn't have good tone, because that's the most important thing.
And you know, for me, it's kind of awful because I critique everybody on TV. And my husband's tired of it, and he says, well, didn't they go to voice care? And of course I go, oh yeah, you're right, okay, I'll stop. But you know how it goes. Okay, so now tell me why you continue to share your talents and teaching expertise like this.
You know, when I approached retirement, my biggest fear was that I was going to be bored, because I love being in a school and I love working with students. So, but it's very intense. It's not an 8-hour job. It's many hours to maintain and do all the things that you want. Yeah. And I had an eye surgery that I needed to have, and I kind of made this decision at age 64 that this was time. But I did. That was my biggest hesitation. It was like, okay, so now I'm a very active person in the music world, and what am I going to do? Well, I put on my Christmas letter that I'm failing retirement because it's hard sometimes to say no, because all the things that are coming around are just really fun to do. I just love to be with students and to corroborate and collaborate with other music teachers. it makes you feel, I mean, I was telling a student that I taught at the band camp last week, and we were talking about age, and then one of the kids asked me my age, and they go, you shouldn't ask somebody their age. And I went, well, I don't mind telling you my age. I said, I'm 67. No, you're not. I go, yes, I am. And they just couldn't believe I was 67. Well, but you're so energetic. I said, well, you can be energetic at age 67. But I think part of that is being involved with these students.
Yes.
And I teach, mostly middle school, but my private students that I teach are all the way through high school. In fact, this summer I'm teaching one that just finished his first year of college, and he wanted to take some lessons over the summer, so he's taking lessons from me. So from beginning to very advanced. And
Yes.
I feel like teaching these students makes a difference. It just makes a difference.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
I can help them improve and feel better about themselves, and
I know it. It's you have that feeling of, oh, you're still in contact with students, and how much fun it is, and it really feeds me. And even though I might not see them on a regular basis, it's such fun to work with students.
And students, when you're working them at the present time, not all students, but a lot of them will thank you and move on.
Oh yeah.
But what's very gratifying is when students beyond, like, in fact, the person that cut my hair today was the first time I've ever gone with her, because my previous person moved to Florida, and she was one of my former students also.
Oh.
And she just went on and on about how much fun band was, and thank you for being such a good teacher. And those are the things, I mean, if they're remembering back 20 some years before about their experiences that they had with you in the classroom, I guess you've done something good.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that, and I just delight in seeing former students who remember me or have something to say about class. And yeah, I'm the same way you are that way. Oh, what fun. Okay, now some of your other commitments are you're a faculty member at Shell Lake Arts Center, and you teach at band camps in the area. You referred to that. Now, tell us why that's important to you and why you like it.
Well, I love teaching beginners. That's just part of my personality, from the opening up the case and not even knowing how to open the case properly, and then to get those initial sounds, and they don't sound good at the very beginning, and to get them to make that progress and to feel good about themselves. And as that, it's I always say, when I was directing, I said, it's not a magic wand. It's a baton. I said, it's not a magic wand, but I don't think you really want it to be a magic wand, because if you do the work and put in the time, I'm going to guide you, but you're doing the work, and you're going to feel just awesome about what you've accomplished through this process. Not only learning the things about the instrument, but all the connections you're going to make with all your other friends that are involved in music and expressing yourself through the music, and you're going to just have this wonderful feeling of accomplishment and community within your ensemble. And I'm just going to guide you. And if you choose not to work, well, then if you don't put in the time, it's not going to happen. But if you do, it'll have very positive results. So that's why I like teaching at band camp. And I think because I'm so close in the area, I get asked to be in Hudson's and Stillwater across the river, because I have connections. I know those people, and they go,
Yes.
and they've taught at our band camp when I was leading the band camp in Hudson. So we just kind of reciprocate. You teach at my camp, I'll teach at your camp.
Oh, what fun.
Yeah. Great fun.
Oh, I just love that you go to Stillwater. And of course, I know who you're talking about. And he is one of my favorite people, too. Okay. Well, anyway, the way you explain that, I think how lucky for those beginning students to have someone like you teaching them everything about the instrument, opening the case, like you say. And you actually had some tryout nights. Remember those where you would have kids try a different instrument? And how does that work?
Yeah, there are some school districts that don't do that. It was a challenge during COVID. A lot of it has to do with the size of the student, how big their hands are. Because like in a clarinet, for instance, and a clarinet especially, you have to cover, not only you're pressing on keys, but you're covering holes. Well, some of these little fifth graders going into sixth grade are not very big. Or for a brass instrument, buzzing, making the sound, or a good sense of pitch. A trumpet has 3 valves, but it can play as many notes as a saxophone, which you played.
Yes.
Right? And the flute or
Yes.
the clarinet. But we use our ear, our eyes and our ear to see the pitches, and then we adjust with the muscles in our face in the combination with the valves. So if you've got a student, I would ask them to sing pitches. And if they can sing a pitch back to me and match my pitches, then and if they did okay you might be a really great candidate to play a brass instrument. And then we kind of see what they're interested in. Are you interested in upper brass, lower brass? Maybe you don't care. My son wanted to play the trumpet. He couldn't get a sound on it at all. He ended up playing trombone, which he loved.
Good.
Right. So there are schools that don't do that. They just kind of, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, and you have a student that's having maybe some issues on the instrument, and then you can retest them and start them on something else.
Yeah, and that whole thing about how if you can't buzz and you can't get the sound on it, boy, you're going to have a tough time.
Right. And if somebody really, really has their heart set on a certain instrument and they can't produce a sound at that testing night, what we usually did is we'd pull the parents outside and why don't you bring them in sometime next week where we can give them a little bit more time, because sometimes they're nervous and they just can't get it. They just can't get it to happen. But a lot of it has to do with jaw structure and teeth and.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't, even though the flute is the most popular, it isn't for everyone.
No. Right. I wanted to play the clarinet and I couldn't get a sound on it, and they handed me the trumpet and I was like crying because my best friend was playing the clarinet. And I guess that worked out.
That's funny.
The trumpet worked out.
That's funny because I had no choice. My dad played saxophone in a dance band.
So that's what you got.
And that's what he always dreamed of for his 2 girls. So, of course, we both played saxophones. And, of course, I never played in a dance band. So I thought, boy, my dad must have really enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. So, it really, so sometimes it's what Dad wants. Mm-hmm. And, of course, you can always get a sound on a saxophone.
Right.
So, and that was a lot of fun for me because my girlfriend did play. So we practiced together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big thing, too. And I pretty much know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you, what is your philosophy of teaching music?
Well, I actually, and one of the things I brought just a few notes, but I mean, when I ran for office for vice president of Wisconsin Music Educators Association, you had to come up with a philosophical statement because then they sent out basically ballots. And you can do a lot of wordsmithing and stuff like that, but my just basic gut feeling about music education is that I truly feel that all students should be offered music. I mean, and if I had my way, there'd be an offering or a mandate. But we can't do that. Probably can't say that word, but all the way through school, just because of the benefits. I'm not trying to make everybody into band directors, choir directors, elementary music specialists, orchestra, but the benefits of being involved in music and the learning process. There's so many studies, and we use that sometimes in education and talk about the benefits of music in a child's learning, reading, testing. It has those benefits. Now, I believe you should also play music for music's sake, because just being involved in playing music, and if it didn't have any other benefits for your brain, but just to play and express yourself and have emotion, that in itself is high on the list. But I think that also the benefits of, I have seen magic happen, even with my own child, magic happen, organization, commitment, learning how to practice. And that crosses over into math and science and other areas of home life. And because they learn these things. Somebody stands on a box in the front of the room, guess what? It's time, rehearsal starts and you need to be quiet. So it's just all those things. It's learning to be in a community and what that means. But I truly believe it's more than just the music. But if all students had that opportunity just to continue on, and I know sometimes even monetarily some kids don't have that option, but then maybe there could be some other options for them to, guitar class or, composition or whatever it may be, general music all the way through grade 12.
Right.
That would be in a perfect situation world. That would happen, but I know it's not a perfect situation. But we have, in Hudson, we have a great percentage of students that are involved in music. as well as many, many, many other schools in this area and in the state. And I think it's wonderful. They should be involved.
I do too. And I really share a lot of the same thoughts with you. I think it's so important. Like, that's one reason I really enjoyed my elementary music classes, K through 5. For a while, I had 1 through 6. Different situations in Hudson at different schools and the way they did things. At one time, I had 8 classes of 5th graders.
Ooh.
And that's because they were all bus to EP Rock.
Sure.
But you know what? Every class I taught was delightful. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the same.
Right.
It would never be the same. And yet I would have the same lesson plan pretty much, unless I had something else I was trying to achieve, like a discipline thing or something, or getting people to listen at the right time. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I feel like I got really good at that.
Right. And we all teach basically the same things, but
we do.
Sometimes you have a class that maybe doesn't excel in a certain area. Well, then you're just going to have to work at honing that. Maybe it's rhythms, maybe it's pitch recognition, whatever it is.
I know.
And so
I know
what
you're saying.
Work on that a little bit, and then they get caught up to where.
And then, to take them to another level. Like for 5 years, I got to do 6th, 7th. Oh, I guess it was 6th, 7th grade choirs. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm going up another level now. I got to make sure that they're achieving everything I want. Plus, now you're in 6th grade. Mm-hmm. And then the 7th grade year, even a higher, standard for trying to achieve some more knowledge. And I was going to different summer schools, and I was focusing on different things, and movement and music wasn't their favorite thing, but I do think they learned from it.
And don't you agree that I've said this many, many times in the community, that we were very fortunate to teach with outstanding music educators.
Yes.
For my entire 35 years in Hudson. I mean, dedicated, the way I feel about the word talented, great musical aptitude.
There you go.
Student-centered.
Yes.
Quality, variety, world music. I mean, professional, fun to work with. That is not the way it is in every district. And it was just truly, it was a blessing to teach here that long and teach with such great people.
Yeah, and I always felt that way too, because I felt like, okay, now the 5th graders are going on to band. I want to make sure they know what's going on a recorder. Mm-hmm. And everybody had to learn that. And that was even fun for me, although the first couple weeks were a lot of squeaks. But they learned how to manage that. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of the teachers would say to me, how can you stand teaching that class? And I'd say, wait till you see them in a month or 2 months. You'll be amazed at what they play. And then there's always that student who just excels. Mm-hmm. And I felt the same way as you, though. I want every child involved in music, and I want them to enjoy my class. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of different ways of getting that out of them. Mm-hmm. And, when you have that success, boy, that makes your job
and that's
really
maybe
enjoyable.
something I referred to earlier, is that's not always an 8-hour job, because you might have a student or two that you're just not getting to, and so then you have to come up with other ways to reach them or get them to understand that they could be doing better at this, and that takes time, because now you're individualizing the approach with that student, yet it's worth it when you see them find success.
Exactly. And then it was really challenging when one little boy in kindergarten wanted to sit at the piano with me every day. And I knew the other students didn't like it. Mm-hmm. But after a while, we got him back in the class to sit with his classmates. And it took a while to get to that stage. So, yeah, I was always trying to innovate, find ways to reach every child. And like you, it was really delightful teaching. The students were the delightful part. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now, I know you're an expert on this. What are your favorite compositions for band and orchestra? Because, I've been to Orchestra Hall a lot, and I had tickets.
That was actually somewhat challenging to keep it brief. I mean, I just, like I said, I had written some things down.
Yeah.
But the first thing that came to my mind, now we're close in age.
Yes. Thank you for that.
I was heavily influenced as a child by a television program. Oh. And you just mentioned Orchestra Hall, young people's concerts. But when I was a child, Leonard Bernstein, and those young people's concerts that were on television, I was like glued. We had one TV in the house, and I was glued to the TV. And then, of course, I learned that also that he not only was he a performer, but he did these concerts, and we learned about the orchestra. Mm-hmm. But then he was a composer, and like for my son's 30th birthday a few years ago, I took him to see West Side Story. And so I love the music of Leonard Bernstein. Aaron Copland. I love the music of Aaron Copland. So I do like some of the more contemporary composers. If I was limited to just a few recordings of things, one of my favorite symphonies was Mahler's Fifth Symphony. It is just beautiful, and it has the most gorgeous brass parts. Bobbi, I wrote down many things. Irish Tune from County Derry, that Ryan McCarthy tricked me. I saw on my last year, he calls me up one day and he goes, "So what's your favorite band piece?" I'm like, "For 8th grade?" And he goes, "No, just any favorite band piece." I'm like, and I mean, I'm like, so I gave him a few. Mm-hmm. And no, I said when he goes, "No," I went, "What do you mean no?" I mean, I like that piece. And he goes, "No, just give me some more." And then he went, "Okay, thanks." I was like, I had no idea what he was doing.
No
well, anyway,
way.
He had me come up on their final concert of the year because I gave out that scholarship in my name. And I was not dressed like professionally. I had sandals on and whatever. Well, he had handed out Irish Tune from County Derry to the Wind Symphony. Oh. And he said, "Wouldn't it be just fitting for Mrs. Root's last year in Hudson that she gets to conduct the students she used to teach?" I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And then I saw it on the stand. I was like, so that was a thrill.
Oh,
so I got
my word.
So I got to
you were called up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. From the audience.
Oh, he did
yeah,
pull
he
one
did
on you.
Yeah, but it was I don't get to, it's
But
very
delightful.
challenging piece, so my middle schoolers wouldn't be playing that.
Yes.
So that was really fun.
Well, that is so challenging.
Yeah. So
and of course, that's like sight reading almost. Of course, you know the tune.
I know that, yes.
But there's other parts.
I haven't conducted from that score in probably 40 years. And here's another one that you and I might share.
Yeah.
Carmina Burana.
Oh, yes.
With Carl Orff, which is,
yes.
to explain, there are band arrangements of it and orchestral, but it has vocal.
That is a beautiful,
that's a great
beautiful piece.
And then I have some favorite composers that now are some of the composers are starting to write absolutely fantastic music for middle level students. So some of the music that was written for middle level for many years was very trite. It was just kind of not fun to play. I mean, they were having fun, but there was no meat to it. And so now they're starting to not, because, the best music is for those higher grades. Well, no. I mean, if you don't get the younger kids interested in playing in music, good music, they might not continue. So some of these composers are writing some really fun music, including our friend Jack Stamp, and Brian Ballmages and Randall Standridge. I mean, they're just putting really awesome music out for this age level. Even the beginner music, the little 6th graders, is really starting to be challenging and fun and innovative, which is great. And so what I've done, because I've been doing some guest conducting things now, is I started doing all this research, and I created a Google Doc of all of my favorite pieces that I've come across with recordings. And so if somebody wants me to conduct their band, I can give them literature choices. It's up to about 100 now. And I just kind of go through, here's a march, here's a this. Yeah, and it keeps me organized, and then it's a Google Doc, so it's there forever until I delete it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, and I love that you're getting to conduct in different areas and different places, and I'm just really impressed with that too, because in your retirement, isn't that fun?
Yeah, it wasn't so
get
much.
to do
No,
that.
not so much last year, but before.
Yeah.
Before COVID
yeah, that's
struck,
true.
and
Well, one more question.
Yes.
I know I have to stop pretty soon, but it's so fun to talk to you. Oh, I was going to comment on Mahler, but I won't. I was going to say that's so tough. It's not my favorite, but there is beauty in everything.
yes, yeah, it's.
I've heard it.
Right.
Yeah.
Mahler's Fifth.
I try to be open-minded. Who are your favorite composers then? Another hard one.
I
huh?
love, well, because it's so varied. If you saw my listening list, it's very from, I don't listen to all classical music.
Right.
But I like anything from Tower of Power to Tony Bennett, who I got to see live, to, rock. I mean, not what my son listens to, but, some rock. But he likes some classic stuff, too. And, yeah, Brandy Carlisle. I like Brandy Carlisle. But as far as classic, composers, I love, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, of course. I love Mozart. But I would also go into Mahler, Granger, Hindemith, contemporary.
I know about that.
Karl Orff, Richard Wagner, Elsa's Procession to the Cathedral. And maybe I'm being a little maybe selfish in thinking about some of the brass parts on some of those, but some of those that I mentioned have wonderful orchestral brass parts that are fun to listen to and very fun to play. But I am open to almost anything, but I have a tendency to lean towards. Yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time making the list, but these are the ones that just kind of popped out of my head. And my college band director was just phenomenal. And he, if there was a list of literature that he thought we should play or listen to, we did it. And even if it was just a sight read through it, he wanted us exposed to all kinds of literature. And there were some I was like, I don't think I'd ever play that if I was a high school band director, but there were others that were wonderful. And then he brought in guest composers that actually came and conducted the pieces.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
You had a very, very wonderful experience.
I did. He was a phenomenal
yeah.
teacher, and so was my trumpet teacher, was phenomenal. So I was very lucky.
Very lucky. Oh, you named so many of my favorites. And I do feel that I too have an open mind to pop vocals, little bit of rock, a little bit of all that stuff, and because I can really get into it and enjoy it, and I used to kind of reward my students at the end of the year with a little bit of pop singing, and they loved it.
Well, I've created a list on the side of the refrigerator because for Christmas I asked for an Amazon Echo, and so I'll just go, Siri, play the Beatles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Siri, play Tower of Power.
Oh, yeah, now everything is so advanced.
Right, yeah, and
now.
so they'll just go to the playlist and whatever they have on Amazon, whatever, and it's just whatever I kind of feel like. If I need music to clean the house by, it's going to be,
I hear you.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was watching Channel 2, PBS, and Minnesota Orchestra was playing a concert. And I enjoyed that. And I'm sure you know one of the trumpeters. I think it was Manny.
Manny Laureano.
Yeah. And, I saw him so many times, but the beautiful way they were playing. You couldn't tell whether it was brass, woodwind, or whatever. And it was so blended. But anyway, I love that kind of music too. So this has been really fun for me, Connie. I might have to call you back because I think there's more for us to talk about.
I've enjoyed myself.
But I do thank you so much for coming in, and we had a little trouble finding a day, but we got there.
It's that failing retirement thing.
It is. And I do want to say to our audience, I hope you enjoyed the interview, and I hope you learned a lot of what you might try out to listen to or whatever. And do put some enjoyment of music in your life. That's really the goal of it all. And it really helps even through a pandemic. So if we ever get there again. But thank you again for watching. We hope you enjoyed the show.